Okay, so it's 11 o'clock and it's time to go. So firstly, thanks to everyone that's joining us. This is the first time that I've done a Zoom meeting with a shared screen. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed my capability with technology works as well as it should do. So let's hope there's no glitches and what have you. It all seems pretty straightforward. So first things first, thanks for taking the time to drop by. This isn't going to last too long because having been on lots of different webinars over the last few weeks and what have you, when people kind of go on for too long, it can get a bit boring and what have you, and that's kind of the last thing that I want to do. But I do want to give the opportunity for you guys to ask some questions as well at the end. So I want to make sure that there's time to go through some bits and pieces. I've developed this speech, if you like, and I've delivered it to a number of different people from different networks. I did a thing at the NEC delivering this exact speech as well. And the principle behind it is basically giving job seekers some real kind of inside information as to kind of what happens in the recruitment industry, if you like, and giving you guys some real straight talking advice tips to really help you separate yourself from the crowd in a crowded marketplace, because I think that that's very important in any given market, but especially over the coming weeks and months when we see things go back to normal. We anticipate things to be very, very busy. So for those of you who don't know me, just a really quick introduction of who I am. I first got into recruitment back in the late 90s. I worked for a boutique agency before going on to formulate Strictly Recruitment, and we've grown that business from one or two of us into one of the market leading agencies of where we are now. So when I first started in recruitment, it was very old school. It was quite dated back then, but I've seen the journey of recruitment change a hell of a lot over the last 20 years. Now, given my kind of background and experience and what have you, I thought it was important, and I think it's important for anyone who's been in an industry for a very, very long time. Once you amass a huge amount of knowledge, I do think people have a bit of a duty to not just sit on that information, but use that information to do some good. And that is why over the last kind of year and a half, 2 years, I've been developing, these kind of insider tips videos and speeches and what have you, to help as many people as possible to kind of help them find a job, because the market is always busy on the candidate side. So any help and advice that job seekers can get to separate themselves from the crowd is going to be invaluable, basically. So that's where this has come from. The research on this kind of piece, if you like, is born from the kind of vast experience that I have in the industry, and also speaking to a vast amount of clients as well over the years about what they like to see on CVs and how they like to do things. So this is all this has been born from a hell of a lot of research and what have you. So look, let's crack on and get to it. So my first point that I want to point out to everybody is essentially, it's a really, really straightforward tip and a really obvious one, but it's such an important one to start off with, and it's making sure that job seekers get their social media completely on point. Now, as I say, it is super important, but you'll be really, really surprised how much this is overlooked with kind of every single generation, if you like, of job seekers out there. Now, whether you are told this or not as a job seeker, when you're looking for a job, when you're looking for a job, essentially a company or whether it's an agency recruiter or an in-house recruiter, whenever they receive your CV, there's probably about an 80% chance that they're going to look you up online, and they're going to look to find out what you're about and what your kind of social media footprint is, and find out a little bit more about you as a person and diving underneath the CV that's there. So what you need to be doing as a job seeker is making your social channels as professional and as warm and friendly as you possibly can, because your social media channels are going to be the first insight that these guys have of you. So when we're thinking about social media and what have you, we need to be thinking about making our profile pictures nice and warm and friendly, okay? And what we need to be looking at is thinking about the professionalism within these pictures. Now, it's a bit of an extreme example coming up here. And normally when I do this face to face, there's a lot of people laughing and shaking their heads in the audience when I show this side. But it's about making your profile pictures warm, friendly, and as professional as possible. And it goes without saying that selfies with bottles of wine or pictures of you with dog ears, perhaps dog ear filters, is a big no-no. Okay, so essentially, when we're thinking about the social media channels, the easiest thing for you to be doing is to simplify your social media channels as much as you possibly can. Don't shut them down in any way, shape, or form, but just simply make them private. And think about the impression that you want to be giving to a potential employer. Now, one thing that is also worth keeping in mind, if the recruiters, whether they're agency or whether they're in-house recruiters, if they can't find you on your TikTok or your Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, or what have you, don't neglect your WhatsApp picture, because I know in certain agencies that I've worked in the past, and I know from certain recruitment agencies out there, I know that they will look at this as a potential way to investigate who the candidate is. So just bear that in mind when you're searching for a job. And one last thing on kind of social medias and making the first impression is looking at our email address. Now, when we first got emails, full disclosure, when I first got my first email address was kingkelly20@hotmail.com. Now, if I was looking for a job today with that email address, I would definitely change it. So, for example, if you've got an email address of wine queen or out with the lads on the booze at hotmail.com, whatever, anything like that, is probably a good idea to kind of set up a simply more professional account for whilst you're searching for a new role, basically. So as I say, the first point there is to get your social media channels on point, so it gives the best impression of yourself. Now, the second point is an interesting one, because it's about using the platforms open to job seekers to their fullest potential. Now, it's wonderful when we're applying through jobs when we apply through jobs through the likes of Reed, CV Library, Sex in the City, and what have you. But job seekers, what we tend to find is they don't really know the kind of true potential, as it were, of these job sites. Now, most of the job sites that you get out there in the current day will have an option where you can post your CV directly onto the database, essentially. Now, every single agency that's out there and every in-house recruiter will have access to these huge databases that candidates post their CV onto. Now, on the flip side of that, when a candidate puts their CV up on one of these databases, the recruiters on the other end get an instant email which says, so-and-so has sent their CV, and so-and-so has posted their their CV up on their database. So that means essentially for the job seeker, you can actually get a whole bunch of people looking for roles for you with basically 2 clicks of a button, making your job search so straightforward, essentially. Now, I get from a job seeker's perspective, a lot of people might be sitting there thinking, well, okay, I don't want to have 2 clicks of a button and then be bombarded by phone calls from annoying recruiters or in-house recruiters and what have you. That's the kind of last thing that that's the kind of last thing that I want to get, that actually want to happen. Now, the very, very simple way to do that is simplify your profile that little bit more, okay? And to stop yourself getting bombarded, just don't put your phone number on there, and just basically just give your email address. And on your profile, when you'll say that you're looking for a job, basically clearly state exactly what you're looking for in the profile section, and make sure that the people that are calling you are actually acknowledging this. Now, this is going to be a surefire way for you to pick an agency or a direct recruiter to see if they are worth partnering with and coupling with, to see if they've taken the time to actually read your profile, to make sure that they kind of know what you're looking for. So simplify it, make sure you put on exactly what you're looking for, and from the messages that you get back, the people that acknowledge the fact that they've read your profile, they've read the fact that you want to do A, B, C, or X, Y, Z, they're the people that you want to be speaking to and chatting to, because they've taken the time to kind of read your CV. Now, that's a slide and basically tells you how to kind of put your CV up on the different databases. And this is kind of from what the agencies see in the background when people are looking for a job, just to kind of give you a bit of an insight on that. Now, I know that probably I can't see exactly how many people are on here and the names of the people and what have you, but I'm going to take a huge stab in the dark to say that pretty much all of you are on LinkedIn, and that's probably how you found out about this webinar. Some of you may have found out about it through through our email that we send out on our newsletter. But I'm going to take a wild stab that most of you are on LinkedIn. So making the assumption that you are on LinkedIn, we need to get your LinkedIn profile up to date and is filled in as fully as you possibly can. If you're not on LinkedIn, you found out about this webinar another way, get yourself on LinkedIn today and make sure you start basically filling out your account and filling it out properly. So when we talk about filling in your account properly, the algorithm of LinkedIn essentially works on the basis of how in-depth people's profiles go to, okay? So what we need to be doing is we need to be filling it up. We need to be filling it up with recommendations. So the first place to start is to be looking at friends and colleagues, to give you as many recommendations as we possibly can. And of course, the same rules apply with our profile picture, okay? And remembering what we were talking about, social media channels, LinkedIn is still a social media channel, albeit focused on business. So we need to make sure that the picture is warm and friendly and everything else. Now, LinkedIn has become the #1 platform in the world, essentially, for job seekers and business. Currently, I think the stats have gone up over the last couple of weeks or a month or so. There's 600 million people using this, and it's kind of taken over as the #1 job seeking site on the world. So that stresses the importance of making sure your LinkedIn profile is as up to date as you possibly can. Okay, so one of the insider tips that I'm going to show you now is because the site has got some kind of huge options. But the first one is that you can set your profile up to show prospective recruiters that you're actually interested in looking for a new role, but whilst keeping it completely confidential to anyone who works in your current organization. So if you can see here, I've highlighted when we're setting up our LinkedIn profile, you can see an option there that says, show recruiters that you're open to new jobs, essentially. And then from here, you go onto this page, which basically shows you your job preferences. Now, I'm not looking for a job, but I did this on the basis that, you know, to help you guys kind of set this up. So you go into the job preferences, you fill out all of these details here, add it to profile, and then you can, here's a different section of drop down boxes and what have you, of all the different choices that you can put on there. And then from there, you can actually choose exactly who sees whether you're looking for a job or not. Now, if you're not working, then it's safe to click all LinkedIn members. If you are working, you obviously don't want your current employers to know that you're looking for a job. That would be pretty crazy, to be fair. So you click the link that says only recruiters, and then you'll see the tab that says people using LinkedIn's recruiter product, take the steps to show, etc., etc. So what that does is that actually flags up with a whole army of recruiters that are out there, that flags your details and you as a candidate to all of the recruiters that are out there that are using this tool. Now, I'm not sure how many people on this kind of webinar know about LinkedIn Recruiter License, but it's essentially a bit of background behind it. It's basically only verified recruitment professionals can sign up to this, and as a business mechanism, it costs absolutely thousands to sign up to. And essentially, this has been the kind of biggest disruptor in the recruitment market, if you like, because lots and lots of in-house recruitment teams are basically signing up to LinkedIn Recruiter and having this recruiter license, and having an army of teams that sit behind the scenes using these things to attract job seekers, which effectively, paves the way for in-house organizations to do all of their recruitment themselves behind the scenes, and it paves the way for other recruiters to really push on and make the most of it, and make the most of the platform to really push forward. So by putting these things up on your profile, it makes yourself a lot more visible, and it makes yourself a lot more attractive, and it shows that you are actually in the market looking for a job, and ready to go and available that's there. So a quick kind of easy fire tip to to kind of make yourself visible. So I'm going to run through two more, and then we're going to open up for some questions, and then the rest of the kind of tips and what have you, we will we can speak on another day, because I want to make sure that people have the time to answer some questions and what have you. So the next one is about picking the right recruitment agency. Now, let's face it, when we think about recruiters, every single recruitment agency is going to tell you that they're different. Okay, every agency is going to tell you that they've got the best jobs around. They're going to say that they've got the best and most diverse client base. But let's face it, coming from somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years or so, recruitment as an industry probably hasn't got the best reputation, let's be fair. So you've got to make sure that you pick the right agency that is actually a decent agency, but more to the point, making sure that they are right for you. Because once you find a recruitment agency that is good and is right for you, they will be worth their weight in gold. Now, I'm not saying that over the past 20 years, I've been the best recruitment agent the world has ever seen, but I can think of so many different candidates that I found their first job, and then they've come back for their second, third, fourth, fifth jobs over the years. I've helped lots of different people finding their job at entry level, and then myself and the candidate have worked together to kind of as a partnership, and I've helped them find jobs all the way through their career up to C-suite level. So as I say, making sure you find the right recruitment consultant that gets to know you and looks after you is going to be worth their weight in gold. Okay, so the way to do that is to make sure that you do the research on the agencies that you're going to see. First things first, obviously check the reviews and make sure that they're good and they've got a lot of them. And beware of false advertising. Now, people in the recruitment agency industry look at me like, hang on a minute, what's he talking about? And job seekers do the same as well. But please be aware of false advertising because it does still go on in 2020. And I'll give you an example. I interviewed a recruitment consultant at the beginning of this year, and he was frustrated with his current recruitment agency because the agency that he was working in advertised that they specialized in banking and trading jobs. And essentially they had not one client in the banking industry, and it was the consultant's jobs to go out there and attract candidates who wanted to be traders, bankers, and brokers, and then persuade them to become recruitment consultants by complete false advertising. So please just make sure that you're aware that does still happen, and you know there are some kind of key trigger signs when you look at false advertising. If an advert is super vague, 9 times out of 10 you'll see that that isn't necessarily a real job. But we can talk a little bit more about that from there. When you do pick an agency, make sure that they're asking questions based on you and your job search, not just telling you what you're good for, basically. Hopefully that makes sense. You know, that when you're having the first introductory phone call with a recruitment consultant, you want to be making sure that they're taking the time to find out your key drivers of your experience, the key drivers of what you want to do in your next role, what you don't want to do, where you want to work, what makes it, what type of organization. Somebody who gets on the phone that says, I've got the most perfect job for you, you're going to be good for this, you can do that, you can do that, you can do this. You've got to be sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute, why isn't this person asking questions about me? Because the consultant needs to find out about that individual to make sure that they give their best in that particular job search. So make sure that all recruitment consultants are listening to you and accept that it's your job search and what you say goes, because after all, you're the recruitment agency's boss. And lastly, when we're thinking about recruitment agencies, make sure you set out your non-negotiables and make them clear from the start, okay? And, you know, justify them, speak them through with your consultant. Now, any good recruitment consultant out there will be able to listen to those non-negotiables and actually have a good, straight-talking conversation around those to justify exactly why, if you're being unrealistic, and that will serve as a great indicator of a good recruitment consultant who can sit there and give you true advice based on those non-negotiables that you've raised. Now, the final point, which is really controversial, especially if we're thinking about recruitment agencies and the job that I've been doing for a long time, and that is to contact companies directly. Now, if there are any recruitment consultants listening to this, they're going to be sitting there thinking, what is this guy doing? Why is a recruitment agency owner telling candidates to contact companies directly? And it surprises a lot of people. But every single company wants to save money. Now, that is even more prevalent today, on this day, and over the months to come. Now, but I promise you, if you send your CV to a company directly, it will be greatly received. Now, if I were looking for a job today, I would look into a whole bunch of companies and that I would want to work for, and go and contact them directly, regardless of whether they had a job on or not, because it shows willing and done in the right way. I know that companies love this approach. Okay. Now, if they have a live role on, then that's even better. But most companies have a policy of keeping your CV on file for about 6 months or so, which means you will be actually at the front of the queue when the next role comes on. So if you're in no rush for your search, that's your CV kind of sits there ready to go. Now, by contacting companies directly, it takes away the middleman and it leaves you in complete control over your job search. And I know that people do get frustrated at times with agencies because they feel that they hold back information and what have you, and there's a lack of transparency in the process. But taking this approach should go some way to mitigating those issues that are there. So these are the first kind of tips that I have for you. Now, I have a whole bunch of others that are ready to go, which are based, where we talk about some interview tips, talk about CV and bits and pieces. But as I say, I wanted to kind of keep this as bite-sized as possible and give you guys a chance to ask me some questions and give me a chance to kind of those as well. So this is the first time that I've looked to see who's on here. 40 odd people, so that's great. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to kind of fire away. I've got one here. I was registered with 19 agencies in last January. It's I cut it off as station. Very difficult to find an entry-level PA, but no experience in this role. Been working at corporate receptionist for a year until lockdown. Okay, so what I'm going to say is if somebody, I'm going to answer this question directly. I'm not going to give people's names away. I don't know if people can see who's written that and what have you. But this person here has been a receptionist, wants to get an entry-level PA role. Now, answering that directly, if you want to shift your experience and move into a role that's something different to what you're currently doing at the moment, use every single opportunity that you have open to you in your current position to take on more and take on more responsibility so you can put that on your CV. So, for example, this individual here has said that they're working as a corporate receptionist. Now, if you have got desires to become a PA, what I would be suggesting to you is to speak to as many people as possible in your current organisation to say, hey, do you need any help with organising your itineraries? Do you need any help with any travel arrangements going on? Do you need any help with doing X, Y, Z? So as soon as you can get yourself in a position that, where you're getting true experience based on the role that you want to go into next, you can then start putting it on your CV so you can highlight that experience so prospective employers can see that you've done that exact experience that they're looking for from that individual. So hopefully that helps. Has anybody got any other questions? Is anyone brave enough to come off mute and have a chat?
Hi, yes, I am Paul. Hello. Thanks so much for sharing this today. It's great, really helpful. I've got two questions actually.
Yeah, far away.
My first question is, if you have got your CV and your profile on these websites, do you have any tips for how to follow up with the company or the agency?
I do. I have. It's part of this presentation. Okay.
Okay.
And the next time that I do this, I will then go on to speak about some certain key skills, some key tips that will help you get to the front of the queue and make sure your CV is visible. And as I say, this whole presentation, if I did it all in its entirety, it will probably be about an hour and a half, which is quite long, okay, for everyone to be sitting there, which is why I'm trying to break it up in more kind of bite-sized things.
Okay, sure, Paul.
I have lots of advice which basically elevates your CV from just, a few bits of paper that lands on someone's desk to then making sure that it's very first in the queue when these hiring managers get to see it. So
great. Thank you.
I was planning on maybe going live next week, but given there's quite a few people on here today, perhaps
just one more question. Can I kindly get you to answer as well?
Yeah.
If a person, I've actually got a friend and colleague who's asked this question, if I can represent them.
Yeah.
If you have a disability,
Yeah.
when should you disclose it?
I think, well, every job application that somebody goes for, there is an equal opportunities form that you are required to fill out. It's an employment. I need to get my wording right here, but it's a requirement for everyone to have the opportunity to fill out an equal opportunities form, and that is based around everything. There's a whole bunch of questions there which cover disabilities, gender, race, and what have you. Now, individuals don't have to fill that form in by law, but they have to have the opportunity to actually fill that in. So so if you go to an agency, when you get your registration form, you will be given an equal opportunities form to fill in there and then. Okay. And if somebody says no, they don't want to fill that form in, a little bit further down the line, there will be an opportunity to flag with any prospective employer if there are any special arrangements which need to be made for the interview process to accommodate people's disabilities.
Oh, right. So what's your recommendation? Can you just put yourself in the person's shoes maybe? And which one would you think is best when to do it?
I would say full disclosure is always best right from the outset. A company is not going to discriminate anybody for their disabilities as long as they have got the skills and the tools to be able to do a good job.
Excellent. Right. Great.
Simple as that. So I would say full disclosure, and as soon as possible. But there will be at least 2, sometimes 3 opportunities throughout the recruitment process for people to flag any kind of disabilities or anything else that need to be catered for.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
No worries. So we've got someone here who okay. So somebody's had a gap on their CV, and they've been out of work for one reason or another. These are private messages, so I'm making sure they're anonymous. Essentially, somebody's had a gap on their CV for a year. How do I fill in this gap on my CV without giving out too much personal information? Again, I think transparency is key. And if somebody has had a year out because they went traveling, that is embraced. People say, "Oh, that's great. You went traveling. You had new experiences." If somebody had a year out because they had a bereavement, these things. This is life. These things happen. If somebody has time off to go off and have children, and then wants to return back into the workplace, these things happen. And I think full disclosure is often best. I understand that people don't want to give out too much information, but you can kind of simplify. You simplify the reasons for the absence in work, as long as it is explained. Hiring managers are very open to it, and they understand. They're normal people at the end of the day. And I've spoken to lots of hiring managers directly about what they like to see and what they don't like to see. And the thing that comes up over and over and over again is for people to own their experience and make sure that they're transparent with it, and individuals and they're open and they know exactly what's going on. So hopefully that answers that question. Do I think that more companies have fixed term roles as opposed to permanent roles in month ahead, similar positions? Okay, so this is a 2-part question. Firstly, do I think that companies are going to have more fixed term roles? I think we'll find out. Okay, I think that initially, once we get back to normal, whatever that looks like, the logic dictates that there are going to be more temporary vacancies from the outset, right at the very beginning. Now, whether that kind of continues in that vein over the coming months, I really don't know. it's a question that comes up all of the time, regardless of the market and what have you. But up until a month ago, we didn't see any drop off in permanent jobs at all. It was only this moment that's put a hold on recruitment. So it's a really difficult question to answer. I think the longer this goes on, the more nervous the marketplace is going to become, just being honest and real. And I think there will be a shift initially in the, that there will be more temporary vacancies in the short term, but people, organizations like to have longevity. So it stands to reason that they would like to, employ people on a, on a long-term basis, basically. I've had a few similar positions where some employers in interviews don't like to see multiple firms. Another question about jumpy CVs, again, comes up loads. I've spoken to hiring managers over and over again. I did a big seminar with 5 hiring managers back in January. The question came up about jumpy CVs. Every single individual on that panel who were direct hiring managers from some of the biggest firms in London and organizations, they all sat there and said, I'm really open to people who have worked in lots of different companies, because it shows that they're willing, it shows that they can adapt to new situations, and it shows that, that they can go in somewhere and get up to speed quicker. So they all then said, just as long as you justify why these roles were short term, they haven't got a problem with it at all. So hopefully that helps. Somebody said, do we offer a CV doctor service, or is it at a cost? Do not go to a CV writing company. That's a number one piece of advice that I will give you, because CV writing companies have a style of what they do, and they just write CVs, and they don't make it generic. They don't make it specifically for the job that you're applying for. I have lots of advice on CVs, and that's coming up at the next part of this speech. So so definitely I've got lots of advice to give you, and whoever's messaged that, if they want to talk to me, then I'm very happy to do that. We can speak about that in more details. How quickly do I expect the recruitment industry recover after the lockdown? Let's say we're back to normal in June. Let's be positive. I can see people smiling here. Look, I don't know. I wish I knew. I want to be filling jobs now. I want my team to come back from furlough now. I want to be in the office now. I want to be speaking to my clients now. I'm as desperate for you guys for the recruitment market to get back. Trust me. Look, hopefully it's not going to last too long. We're in contact with our clients every single day. I can't answer that question directly, but what I can say is from the conversations that I've had with our clients, at this moment, all of our clients have said to us, recruitment hasn't stopped, it's just on hold, and those vacancies are still there. So fingers crossed, when we get back, those roles will still be there. There will be a few that drop off. Let's just be real about it. But I think if we can get back to some sense of normality, perhaps in June, I think that it will. I think my personal opinion is that it will recover slightly quicker than we thought. There's loads of questions here. I didn't expect there to be so many. Okay, more companies, remote working. I think more companies will be open. I think some places will be more open to remote working. I think some industries won't be. Some industries will be no. People are more productive in the office. I think it depends. It depends on how much productivity has taken place with people being at home. If companies can find out that they still receive the same service and what have you from people being at home, then then it stands to reason that that people are going to go for it. I was speaking to a client the other day. For the last 3 years, people have been asking them, "Can I work remotely? Can I work remotely?" It's been a flat no. But now they've started to open the conversation about opening those doors. So I think that that is something that may well happen. Do I feel that admin PA roles will change, working hours from home? Yeah, same kind of question as before. I think, yeah, I think that we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll see. Only time's going to tell from that. But, you know, logic dictates that there are kind of more of those, we are starting to see more of their roles come up. We've started to see more of those roles come up in the last 6 months anyway. Do I think that a fair number of the high net worth individual roles, 60K roles, less importance? Interesting question. I think, you know, high paying roles are always been at a premium. There's a question here about, do we think that there's going to be less high paying roles? There's going to be, look, high paying roles are always at a premium, and it's one of those things where, you know, everybody wants to earn as much money as you possibly can, whether you're PA or, you know, a salesman, you know, or private, your private instructor, gym, you know, we all want to earn as much money as possible. I think, again, it's a real impossible one to answer. People working for high net worth individuals, they will always need assistance, and they will always be there. It's just trying to find that kind of, that golden in, because that kind of sector and industry and community is quite closed. So it's about finding a way to kind of break into that. I've looked at it so many times over the years, but I've always found it really tricky to get in to that kind of closed network. So it's something that we'll carry on doing. How quickly do we think the recruits? So we've answered that. C-suite range. Again, do I think that salaries are going to drop for C-suite roles? No, I don't think they will. I think C-suite level roles in big businesses will stay the same, because essentially they're going to have to, because to get the person who's got the right talent, somebody who's working at the top of the tree, isn't going to move for a drop. They're going to move for a sideways move. And when we're thinking about supporting the most senior important individuals of an organization, they want the best of the best, and they won't compromise on quality. So therefore, to get that high quality person who's working at a similar level, they're going to have to pay that money, basically. Do you have any tips on telephone videos? Yes, 100%. Next time, lots of tips there. Do I think age discrimination exists? No, I don't at all. I don't think it exists at all. It's not something that I've seen. I can't think of a client that has said to me in the last 5 years, somebody's too old, somebody's too young. I don't think it happens at all. Admittedly, there are some jobs where if we think of a support role or what have you, a role will be more geared to a junior candidate straight from college, because it's basic level stuff and everything else. So it's therefore, let's talk straight, right? Okay, it's somebody who finishes college, naturally they're going to be young. Okay, so if those roles who are geared for those people, then that's an easy route for them to take. On the flip side of it, it could be a role that's working for a super senior person, and that individual wants somebody who's got loads of experience, who's got the maturity to deal with senior level people and this, that, and the other. So therefore, it's gonna be more attractive and more open to someone who's got many years of experience. So no, I don't think age discrimination does take place, but I do know that candidates and what have you do feel that it does. But from an agency, from somebody on the inside, I'm pretty certain it doesn't. So I think that answers everybody's questions. So as I say, I was going to jump online perhaps next week and do something. I was going to do it perhaps a little bit further on in the week, but maybe, shall we say, if there's people here, if I was to do something perhaps Monday morning, the next section of this, perhaps that would work for everybody. If thumbs up or a yes or a no would be fine, because there's lots of people on here. Then that would be good. Yeah, then that would be great. This has kind of lasted a lot longer than I expected it to. As I say, the whole thing is about an hour and a half. But yeah, okay, brilliant. It's Monday. I don't think Monday is a bank holiday. I think they changed it, didn't they? they changed it to the Friday because of VE Day, didn't they? The bank holiday. They did. Yeah, am I right in that? I'll check that. Okay, so for those that for those that don't follow me on LinkedIn, just look me up, and then we'll post the details of this, of when it's going to happen again. It will go. We'll send it out in our newsletter as well. But we'll do bank holidays Friday 8th of May. So we'll do Monday, and then the next bit we'll be talking about how we do a CV, the bits and pieces that separate ourselves in the CV, and then kind of digging down into you know the methods that we should take and everything else, and we'll take it to that next level. So look, thanks for joining us. It's I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have as well. It's been great. Sorry it's lasted a little bit longer, and I hope people appreciate me just kind of telling you guys exactly how it is, and just trying to be real with it. You know, that's what I'm trying to do. So fingers crossed you got some good value from it. Thanks so much for logging in. Any messages, just drop me a line on LinkedIn, or my email is paul@strictly-recruitment.com. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, Paul. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.